He was called Baba by millions, a leader who never became president, yet shaped the very pulse of Kenyan democracy. Detained, exiled, defeated, yet never broken. This is the story of Raila Amolo Odinga, an enigma of resilience, of promises, of heartbreak, of hope. This is the story of how Kenya changed, one life at a time. Raila Amolo Odinga was born on January 7, 1945, in Maseno, in what was then the British colony of Kenya. He was the son of Jaramogi Oginga Odinga and Mary Juma Odinga. His father, Jaramogi, would go on to become Kenya's first vice president after independence. A man of immense political influence and charisma, Raila was not an only child. He grew up among siblings who, like him, would leave their mark on Kenya's social and political landscape. His elder brother, Dr. Oburu Ngang Oginga, has long been a prominent figure in Kenyan politics. Seasoned economist and legislator, Oburu has served in various capacities, including as Member of Parliament, Assistant Minister for Finance, and currently as Senator for Siaya County. Like Raila, he inherited their father's passion for governance and reform. Raila's sister, Ruth Adhiambo Odinga, has also carved out her own political path. Known for her straightforward and dynamic character, Ruth served as Deputy Governor of Kisumu County from 2013 to 2017. Her involvement in public service reflected the family's deep connection to leadership and community empowerment. Today, she is the women's representative for Kisumu in the National Assembly. Another sister, Akini Wenwa Odinga, has maintained a lower public profile, but is known to have worked in diplomacy and academia. She is a retired senior lecturer at University of Nairobi and was in 2024 appointed by Ruto as chair of the Kenya Marine and Fisheries Research Institute KEMRI board. From Jaramogi's second marriage came Caroline Wakawa Akini Odinga, Raila's half-sister. In recent years, she has emerged as part of the younger generation of Odingas stepping into public life. In 2024, she was appointed as a deputy head of mission in Los Angeles, USA, serving in a diplomatic capacity. From his earliest days, Raila's life was defined by politics, ideology, and the shadow of his father's formidable legacy. Raila grew up in an environment where discussions about freedom, justice, and nationalism were everyday occurrences. His father's involvement in the independence struggle and his later clashes with President Jomo Kenyatta shaped young Raila's worldview. Jaramogi's insistence on truth and justice, even when it meant losing political favor, planted in Raila a lifelong conviction that leadership must serve the people, not power. Kisumu Union Primary School, this is where Raila began his early education. He later joined Miranda Primary School in Bondo, Siaya County, a school well known in the Nyanza region for its academic excellence. He later attended Miranda High School, one of Kenya's most respected national schools, located in Siaya County. After high school, he briefly enrolled at the Technical College in Nairobi, now Technical University of Kenya, for a short period before obtaining a scholarship to study in East Germany. In Europe, he attended the Technical School of Magdeburg and later the University of Rostock in East Germany, where he earned a degree in mechanical engineering. His years abroad exposed him to socialist ideals, discipline, and global perspectives, qualities that would later influence his political outlook. Upon returning to Kenya in the early 1970s, Raila became a lecturer at the University of Nairobi and later ventured into business, establishing the East African Spectre, a company dealing in gas cylinders. Yet even in business, politics followed him closely. The Odinga name carried both admiration and suspicion within the political establishment. Raila's first serious confrontation with state power came in 1982, when a group of Kenya Air Force officers attempted a coup against President Daniel Arap Moi. The government accused Raila of complicity in the coup, leading to his detention without trial. He would spend close to 6 years in prison, moving between some of Kenya's harshest detention facilities, Kamiti Naivasha and Shimo La Tewa. During those years, he endured isolation, torture, and uncertainty about his future. His wife, Ida Odinga, and their young family bore the weight of political persecution. Even after his release, Raila's opposition to one-party rule did not cease. He was detained twice more, in 1988 and 1990, for demanding democratic reforms. When pressure for multi-party democracy intensified, he fled to Norway in 1991 for safety. He returned a year later, just in time to join his father's movement, Ford Kenya, as Kenya transitioned into multi-party politics. The death of his father in 1994 marked a turning point. When Jaramogi died, a struggle for succession emerged within Ford Kenya, the party he had founded. Raila believed he should naturally continue his father's reform agenda and lead the party. However, other senior members, including Kiana Wamawa, contested his leadership. The resulting split, partly fueled by regional politics and generational rivalry, created tension within the Odinga family's political base. Many older loyalists of Jaramogi saw Raila as too bold, too independent, and less patient than his father. Raila, meanwhile, felt constrained by the older generation's cautious approach. From his father, Raila inherited not just a political constituency, but a philosophy that true independence was not complete until ordinary Kenyans enjoyed social and economic justice. Raila's own political journey became a series of bold moves, alliances, and reinventions. He was first elected Member of Parliament for Langdata in 1992. Over the years, he joined and left several political parties. From Ford Kenya to the National Development Party NDP, which later merged with President Moi's ruling KANU in 2001. For a brief period, Raila served as Minister for Energy, gaining a reputation for modernization and efficiency. Yet Raila was never one to remain comfortable within power structures for long. He broke away again, this time helping to form the Liberal Democratic Party LDP, and later the Orange Democratic Movement ODM, which became a major force in Kenyan politics. His name became synonymous with resistance, reform, and renewal. He ran for president 5 times, in 1997, 2007, 2013, 2017, and 2022, and though he never clinched the presidency, each election left an indelible mark on the nation's history. The 2007 general election was perhaps the most dramatic. Raila's strong performance against incumbent Moi Kibaki ended in disputed results, sparking violence that left more than 1,000 people dead. It was one of Kenya's darkest chapters. Yet from the ashes of that crisis came a new political compromise. In 2008, through the mediation of Kofi Annan, Raila Odinga was appointed Prime Minister in a coalition government, a historic role created to end the conflict. During his tenure, he pushed for constitutional reforms, transparency, and equity. The result of that effort was the 2010 Constitution of Kenya, a landmark achievement that decentralized power and strengthened governance. Many regard this as Raila's greatest contribution to Kenyan democracy, even greater than any office he ever sought. Despite repeated election losses, Raila's following remained strong. To his supporters, he was Baba, the father of the nation's democratic struggle. To his critics, he was a master of political brinkmanship, a man who could rally the masses, but struggled to translate charisma into victory. Life reflected Kenya's own contradictions, full of hope, conflict, and resilience. His relationship with his father remained a central thread throughout his life. Raila admired Jaramogi's courage and intellect, but also carried the burden of his father's unfulfilled dream. Like Jaramogi, he remained in opposition for most of his life, challenging systems of exclusion and corruption. Their bond represented a political lineage built not on inheritance, but on shared defiance. Like any other family, the Odingas had their share of conflict, but this was mainly political. In a twist that few could comprehend, Raila chose to join forces with President Daniel Arap Moi, the very man whom Jaramogi had spent his life resisting. For the aging patriarch, it was not just a political betrayal. It was a wound to the soul, a fracture in the legacy he had fought to build. In fury and heartbreak, Jaramogi is said to have pronounced words that would echo through Kenya's political corridors, a curse that his son would never rule the country he had chosen to walk with its rulers. And whether one believes in curses or in the cruel poetry of fate, Raila's path ever since has carried a haunting symmetry. A lifetime spent at the gates of power, forever reaching, forever denied. This was not only in Kenyan politics, but also internationally, as he was narrowly beaten for the chairmanship role. Beyond politics, Raila was a family man. He and Ida Odinga built a marriage rooted in endurance and shared sacrifice. They raised 4 children, Fidel, Rosemary, Raila Jr., and Winnie. The death of Fidel in 2015 was a devastating personal loss, Yet as always, Raila carried on, channeling private pain into renewed political energy. In later years, he forged unlikely alliances, most notably the handshake with President Uhuru Kenyatta in 2018, an agreement that brought political calm but also divided opinion. To some, it was a statesman's act of peace. To others, a betrayal of the opposition cause. This duality only deepened Raila's mystique. He could be at once revolutionary and pragmatic, radical and conciliatory, the consummate political enigma. On October 15, 2025, Raila Odinga passed away in Kochi, India. After suffering a cardiac arrest while undergoing treatment, he was 80 years old. His death plunged Kenya into mourning. Tributes flowed from across the political divide. President William Ruto declared 7 days of national mourning and described Raila as a pillar of our democracy. Citizens from all walks of life remembered him as the man who never gave up on Kenya. Raila Odinga's story defies simple definition. He was not just a politician, he was a movement. A man who never reached the presidency, yet shaped the destiny of every president who came after his father. He bridged generations, tribes, and ideologies, and even in defeat, he commanded respect. To call him an enigma is not to suggest mystery alone, but to recognize the complexity of his life, a life defined by conviction, contradiction, and courage. He was both a dreamer and a realist, a rebel and a negotiator. He taught Kenya that democracy is not a moment but a journey, one that demands patience, persistence, and sacrifice. And so in the chronicles of Kenya's history, Raila Odinga remains not merely as a name on a ballot or a voice in protest, but as a symbol of endurance, of struggle, and of the eternal hope that one day justice and the will of the people will truly reign. Subscribe and follow Echoes of Time for more.